Hi, this is Paul Sanneman, founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build winning teams at contractorstaffingsource.com. And I'm presenting business success tips where you can learn to make more money in less time and have more fun, especially the more fun part. I have Austin Hauser with me today from Base Coat Marketing. And all you guys, and that's being patriarchal, I guess, need to know about marketing, more about marketing than you do. So I'm going to ask Austin, tell me a little about yourself, your backstory, and why people should listen to you in the first place.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Paul. Yeah, as you mentioned, we're all here to have fun, right? So I think that is definitely the most important, possibly overlooked aspect of running a business. But in order to have fun, you need to have freedom. And in order to have freedom, you need to have a business that is generating you some sort of business or lead flow. And that's where we come in. So I founded Base Coat Marketing. We are a full service digital marketing agency for professional painting companies. So in the contractor umbrella, we do niche down pretty far, and we do only focus on residential, commercial painting companies, and we'll also work with epoxy floor companies.
Okay.
Our team is completely in-house, so everything we do is within our team. We don't outsource anything to a third party or white label, which I think is an important distinction to make these days.
Right. That's
Um,
true.
but yeah, that's
You
that's
are a
kind of
real
our.
person. You're not AI, right?
That's right, exactly. Yeah,
That's going to last for a little while longer. Then we're all going to be replaced. But for right now, we're real people.
that's right. Everybody's human on our team.
Yeah, that's good. So, tell me, if you're doing marketing, there's a couple things that I find very interesting. One is how much should a marketing budget somebody have? I've heard 2%, 1%, 10%. And then there's two things for marketing budget. There's the building brand, which is, who you are and that kind of stuff. And then the other one is, pay per click or getting leads. So could you comment on three things? How much you should spend on marketing and how you should divide that between lead gen and building brand?
Yeah, so these questions, we could probably spend an hour on each of these, but just to give you the quick rundown, um, in the painting space, it could be different in other verticals within the contractor umbrella. We want our contractors to be in single digit percentage territory when we're looking at cost of marketing. Most of our clients are going to be somewhere between 5 and 10%. We do have some clients that will stretch for, let's say, a 12% marketing spend short term, knowing that that's an aggressive scaling tactic. So it's not sustainable long term. But ideally, anywhere between 5 to 10% is a healthy marketing budget based on one factor, and that's ROI. So you can spend any percentage of your business you want, but unless you're seeing more money back in your pocket, that percentage of marketing investment isn't going to make sense, right? Um, and in
So what
terms
is the
of,
typical ROI in your opinion on
yeah,
marketing?
so our benchmark is 10x. So you give us $1, we should give you $10 back. Now, I always like to mention because, people throw around numbers all the time. You see a lot of guarantees out there, like this agency will guarantee you 100 leads a month or $5 leads or something like that, right? None of that matters because at the end of the day, every market's different. So that guarantee is as worthless as the ad that they're putting it on. Really, the only thing that people need to understand is how marketing works, and it's like the stock market. The longer you invest, the better results you can expect. If you expect to jump on with an agency and are going to get you consistent results within the first 30 days, that's just not how the real world works, especially not today. It might have worked like that, let's say 3 to 5 years ago before COVID. Things have changed. So people coming in to start marketing just need to understand that it is a long-term game, regardless of whether you're investing in ads or the brand building like you're referring to.
Now, question, if you're talking about ROI, as ROI, let's say, what is a typical painting contractor gross profit?
So it's going to vary depending on whether they are using subs or employees. But generally speaking, around 50%, 35 to 50% is on average.
Okay, so let's say they're at, let's say 35%. They get 30% gross profit. When you talk about 10x, is that gross or net
So
on
we don't
ROI?
look at profit because again, everybody's profit is different. Everybody has their business structured different. Some of our clients have partners, so that profit margin between partners could be different. What we look at is revenue, and your revenue is going to ultimately dictate what that profit number needs to be, which ultimately dictates how much you can spend on marketing. So revenue is a much cleaner number that, when we're just looking at scaling a company, if you want to go from 1.5 to 3 million in the next 365 days, we can usually backtrack, your historical numbers to figure out how many leads you need, how many booked estimates you need based on your close rate and book rate to really dial in a pretty precise number there.
Okay, but if you only have a 10% net, let's just say your gross profit's 30%, your overhead's 20%, your net's 10%, there's no room for marketing. But so if you look at marketing is if you're getting 50% gross profit and you spend 10% on marketing, then you still have 40% gross profit and your net is maybe 10%. But you've got to build, then you have to build that, use 10% easy number, into your gross profit margin, because that's going to come out of the gross profit for the net, right?
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is when we're talking about some of these hard numbers, like your overall cost of marketing, ROAS is another number that we throw around quite a bit. So return on ad spend. It's
Okay.
just a way of basically taking what you're investing into advertising and determining exactly what you're getting back. So it's like the ROI number zooming in. What we really want to look at is the holistic number across the board. And that's when you brought up brand building. We consider that organic building, or like building up your business organically on platforms such as Google. So think of like your website and your business profile on Google. Those are all lead sources you don't pay for directly. We call that long-term marketing. So that's your, let's say 6 to 12 months in most markets is where you're going to be seeing a return. Some larger markets like Manhattan, LA, Dallas, Fort Worth, you're looking at maybe 12 to 18 months really. Depending on where you're starting.
Now, let me ask a quick question. If you're building brand, do you want to geofence your marketing? Because obviously, if you're in a huge market, you can't say, I want to do, Phoenix, because it's huge. So can you say, I want to do, this portion of Phoenix, this one market? Can you build brand by geofencing in this one little area of Phoenix? Is that possible?
Yeah, so the way we do that is around location-based content. So we have a very intense onboarding process when we onboard a new client. Once we've vetted to make sure that we will even take them on as a client, the onboarding process is very intense. We get to know their business and the business owners personally at a pretty granular level. And we do that because, to your point, a lot of contractors don't necessarily serve the metro area of most of these cities. They like to be around the outskirts in the suburbs. That's where all the houses reside.
Right.
And as such, we don't necessarily want them ranking everywhere. There are some areas of a city that they don't want to go into. So as a result, you can get hyper targeted based on city and state. People don't search for neighborhoods. They don't search for counties. They're searching for their city and state, in some cases, a zip code. Outside of that, organically ranking your business online, you will show up in areas you don't want to show up in, which is fine. You just turn that business away. It's all free anyways. Where you really want to get hyper targeted, using the term geofencing, is in your ad campaigns. We don't want to be paying for out of area leads, and you can get pretty targeted with that. There have been a lot of privacy updates on platforms like Google and Meta that have limited your ability to target by location because people were targeting specific households and neighborhoods, which you can't do anymore. But you can still get pretty creative with how the ads are laid out to make sure that you're excluding those that you don't want.
So you can't drive a neighborhood. These 20 houses need painted. I'm going to get to these 20 guys, right? You can't do that.
You can do that using things like postcard mailers. There's some very targeted platforms out there that you can target, a neighborhood based on a house that you've worked on in the past, and that goes for any type of contractor.
Right.
Digital though, Google and Meta have been sued so many times over privacy violations based on being able to hyper target people because they just have so much data on you. That's why they get so much crap. So as a
I want a
result,
person that bought a Mercedes Benz that lives in this neighborhood in Phoenix that makes between $100,000 and $200,000 a year, has 2 kids, and goes to this preschool. Right.
exactly. And you hear these stories about like people getting served pregnancy ads before they even know they're pregnant. I mean, that's how crazy some of this metadata can get. So as a result, our targeting capabilities are very limited just as they were maybe 6 months ago. But as advertisers, you can get pretty creative with that kind of stuff.
Okay. So then how does the budget split come between organic and pay-per-click, whatever else you're going to use? Do you have a split, or does it depend on the client?
Depends on the client. We really try to have the ad spend outperform or be the bulk of what you spend because our service fees, we want that to be something that is a percentage of your budget, but not the whole budget, or not the majority of your budget. So roughly half of what you're spending should be around the organic side that we again called long-term marketing. Short-term
That like a
marketing,
website development, SEO, all that kind of stuff, right?
yeah, website guys, it's really important that we understand websites are a living organism. So if you build a website, if you pay somebody a couple $1,000s to build a website, if you're not adding helpful content to that every single month, that website's going to plateau and die. It will not serve you any purpose. So don't pay a website development company to build you a website. You're throwing money away. Pay somebody to build you a marketing machine in the form of an organic business building asset that can help grow that organically long term. Um, so yeah, website, your business profile, there's a lot of things you
So
can
we're
do to get
talking
that.
about blogs and podcasts and various information that's constantly being released from your website to improve your SEO, that kind of stuff, right?
Podcast for contractors isn't as helpful as things like, yeah, blog posts. We generally post about 2 posts to our client sites each month. Something else that's really helpful is just putting content on YouTube and embedding that content on your website. Mixed media like that, Google loves, especially since Google owns YouTube. They love
Right.
whenever they use more of their services. Getting reviews on your business profile is another easy one. There's no effort outside of just asking somebody for a review. And those 2 sources alone make up about 2/3 of Google's traffic.
What about backlinks?
Backlinks are still a massive ranking factor on Google. You just don't want to buy them. So the best ways you guys can get backlinks, there's really 2 main ways that we recommend. One is press releases. So there's a PR newswire. There's a bunch of different press release options out there that you can get some regular press releases going. It's takes some technical know-how. It's expensive. Second best way to do this is to go in your local market and search for charities. So there's usually a local hockey team that you can support or a local band camp, and just go on their website and see if they put their sponsors in their website with a backlink. If they do, they might only charge you $100 to have that link on their site, and you're contributing to your local community and you're getting a local backlink. Usually the ones that have a .org in the domain name outperform those with .com. So just do some outreach, see who's in your local market that might be willing to put your website on theirs in exchange for some money. Those go a long way.
Okay. So it's back, go over the 3 things that build your SEO and your website are there's what backlinks, blogs, YouTube. What else was there? And that's information in verse forms, right? Useful
Yeah, I
information.
mean, the number one thing is on-site SEO. So when we're looking at on-site SEO, there's a lot of technicalities there, like heading tags and making sure you have alt tags on the images and all that kind of fun stuff. My recommendation, as somebody who works in the space every day, is if you're a contractor contemplating ranking your website online, don't. It's not worth your time and energy. Really, the best thing you can do today as a contractor is getting reviews on that business profile. Anybody can ask for a review. Go ask for it before you leave the job for best results. Discount it, your invoice if you have to. Get a review on that profile. The number of reviews is just as important as the frequency that you capture those reviews. So, for instance, we've had guys with 50 reviews outranking people with 300 because 25 of those 50 were acquired in the last 30 days. So, get reviews, upload as much images and videos to that profile as you can, and then retain those images and videos in a library somewhere. That way, when you scale your business to a point where you don't have time to market or that you can afford it, you'll have a media library built up and you'll have your reputation built up, 2 things that we can't buy. And at that point, it's very easy to leapfrog a company from doing, let's say, 500K to 5 million in a couple of years.
Mhm. So give me your give me your biggest success story and your biggest failure and why.
Great question. So biggest success, man, we have so many companies that I enjoy taking the companies that are, let's say, mid to high 6 figures into the multiple 7 figures. I get more joy out of that because I see the guys who are owner operators moving into a full-on owner role. And as a business owner myself, I know the freedom of that feeling and it's great. We take guys from, let's say, low seven figures into the multiple seven figures all the time. That's
You're
relatively
going
easy.
from like 900,000 to 3 million, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, like even the guys, the bottom threshold that we generally take on is around 500K. And getting those guys, let's say 600, 750 up into 1.5, 2 million, that gives me so much gratitude. When we look at getting guys from 1.5 to 3 to 6 million, that's awesome, but it's much easier when you have a larger budget to work with, right? It's the guys
Yeah.
that are kind of scraping by that we get them the results they're after. I love that feeling. Biggest failure. I mean, look, we
Well,
fail
give
all
me
the time.
actually, you don't name the name of the company if you don't want to, but I worked with ABC Painting. We went from X to Y. Give me an example.
Um, yeah, we can't give out names.
No,
We
don't
keep
give
our
out
client.
names, but just say, make up the name.
Yeah. So client ABC, we have taken them from 550K to 2.6 million, I believe, in under 2 years,
Wow.
18 months. So, you know, there's clients all over the board. And here's the thing I always like to mention, because you hear these success stories, and as much as I love talking about them, this is a partnership. Okay. Marketing companies, any marketing company that guarantees you results, keep keep in mind that those results are dependent on your ability to help them and succeed. So
Mhm.
a marketing company is a partnership that you and your company should be ready to get in bed with. We give our clients homework assignments, right? So we could have the exact same company in the exact same market get two drastically different results because one is following our homework assignments and one isn't. So we cannot take all the credit for these success stories. It is based on our client's ability to communicate with us, pick up the phone and answer the call when those leads come in, give us media and images, get reviews on that profile. These are all things that is completely outside of the control of a marketing
Yeah.
company.
I found the same thing with coaching. I mean, I feel like I've never failed as a coach, like as a personal coach. If somebody follows my diet and exercise program, and they're going to get healthier, right? A membership to the gym doesn't do anything. Same thing with recruiting. If we're recruiting with somebody and they call the guy when we ask them, it's fine. If they call him 3 weeks later, it doesn't work. They show up for the meetings. So the client cooperation is a huge part of the success, right?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest part. And that's where upfront, before we even consider bringing on a client, we turn away about 2/3 of prospects. We do a very deep evaluation of them and their company to figure out if they're going to be a good fit, if they have the right mindset. These are KPIs that you can't put a number on, but you can ask them certain questions to figure out, are you open to us taking control of your marketing campaigns? Are you going to be looking over our shoulder? Because if you want to guide the marketing campaign based on what you think is going to work, we're probably not going to be a good fit.
Right. Okay. Now give me a failure, and don't say the name, but and why.
Oh, I mean, we have failures all the time. That's how we grow. I mean, that as a business owner, if you're not failing, you're not pushing the boundaries, you're not doing things right. No, we fail all the time. And we have a core value, fail quick and with a plan. So anytime that we fail, we want to make sure it only happens once. There's so many different instances that I can come up with, but I mean, big, small. For instance, one of the big challenges that we have in our industry is we work in an ever-changing field where what works yesterday may not work today. So we're dealing with companies like Google and Meta that are massive conglomerates, right? These people are worldwide, trillion-dollar companies. They have hundreds of thousands of employees, and they change their algorithm and their interfaces all the time. So as a result, some of our strategies that tend to work 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, all of a sudden one day we have 60% of our accounts or 60% of those campaigns in failure. And failure to us, we have certain KPIs around that. But that's where we have to take a look at what's working, what's not working, and pivot. Yeah, I mean, all the time we run into issues, big, small. But the key is looking at those as opportunities. I take every failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. And as long as you are doing that and implementing the processes to prevent it from happening again in the future, those failures are okay.
So who, somebody's listening to this podcast, who would be your favorite client? Describe to me your perfect avatar for a client.
Great question. I kind of mentioned I love the guys who are doing under seven figures. They just have the drive and motivation. They understand, what it takes or what they want to do to get to that seven figure mark. The guys, once we get up to around seven figures, low seven figures, we're in the business owner territory, right? And those guys just know their numbers, and that's all they're looking at is their bottom line numbers. We love those guys because they ultimately, at the end of the day, care about one thing, and that's ROI.
Right,
When we get the guys who want to adjust the way that we're presenting their brand online, let's say, just as an example, we've had companies that want to control a brand and their ads don't perform because honestly, the unpolished ads perform better than the polished ads.
right.
Um, so it's the guys that are willing to relinquish control of their marketing for us to get the results and understand that marketing takes time. Anybody that comes on that is desperate for leads yesterday might not be a good fit. Um, we are looking for somebody that has a healthy marketing budget, but that we're not the only egg in their basket. We should be one component of a marketing strategy. So we don't want somebody that has to stretch to afford our services. And we want somebody that's been around a while and has a reputation online that has well established. Those are the companies that we can generally scale pretty quick. The companies that are a startup in the first year or so, smaller budget, those are the companies that we recommend just grind and pound until you get the point where you are too busy to even focus on marketing. That's generally when you have the budget to afford a company like ours or anybody else online. I actually just spoke with a gentleman today who sounds like a great fit, but we would be taking up his entire marketing budget. And I told him straight up, I'm like, you need to invest more time into your company before you even try to afford somebody online. If you find somebody who is less than $2,000 or $3,000 a month to do your digital marketing, don't give them your money. It's more important that you get to a point where, you have a larger budget to work with because digital marketing is getting very expensive, especially next year. And that budget will not generate you an ROI. So it's really important just to understand that it is
Well, what's the
expensive.
minimum you need to spend to get an ROI monthly, in your opinion?
We recommend 2 to 3,000 is the absolute bottom of the barrel that you're scraping by on to get results online. And that is if you're paying somebody or you're doing it yourself. Without some sort of a budget in mind, at least 2 to 3,000 a month in the contracting space. And again, these numbers are based on the professional painting industry. This is going to be
Right,
very different for
right,
HVAC and plumbing companies. Those
right.
those numbers are even higher. Um, Unless you have a large budget to work with, you just don't have enough times at bat. And you'll get some leads in, but they're going to be single digit leads. And at that point, you just don't have enough times to even identify what a book rate and a close rate looks like from that. So it's all about volume. And in order to generate volume, you need to be willing to pay the price, and the price of leads online are only going up.
What's the typical price of a lead online? That's a crazy question, but is there such a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on the channel. We like averaged across the board. Our leads should be coming in under $100. And we're talking about, I think it's an important distinction to make is a lead. What is that? A lot of marketing agencies will qualify a phone call or a contact as a lead. That's not a lead. It could be a past customer calling in or a vendor or somebody job seeking. A lead is a qualified prospect who might be interested in your services. That is a lead. So when we're looking at actually qualified leads, we're looking at under $100. I can get you $5 leads all day long if you want to consider that a contact. That's not an issue. I can get you 100 leads a month at, $2 a lead. That's not an issue. Those aren't going to be leads though. We need qualified leads. So under $100 normalized across the board. That's the benchmark. We have some guys doing well under that. But to get to that point, you have to be willing to spend more than that because there's a lot of data involved,
So
regardless
question,
of what
at
market you're in.
$100 a lead, what do you expect as a conversion rate? 30%, 20%? What's the typical conversion rate?
Again, depends on the channel. So if we're looking at conversion rate as like a landing page on Google search ads, we want to be somewhere between 10 to 20%.
If it's a phone call, somebody calling
That
you.
would be book rate if we're talking about that. So we look for, let's say, lead to estimate. Depending on channel, it's going to be somewhere between 50 to 70% online. And then as far as your ability to sell goes, determines your overall close rate. So once you get out on that estimate, we want you to be somewhere between 35 to 50% on
And do you
average.
do you help people actually with the staff and teach them how to sell, or is that somebody else that does that?
So we teach them how to get out on the job. Once you're out on the job, that is a completely different mindset in terms of identifying how to identify the pain points of your customer
So
and
you
get
don't
them.
do sales training, you do lead gen, right?
We do lead gen and follow-up training. So when we're looking at sales, part of the sales process is getting in the front door, right?
Right.
Once you're in the front door, we don't take over any of the training there. We want you guys to get in the front door. So what that looks like is there needs to be a follow-up process. I think a lot of guys who come to us who have never done digital marketing before don't understand the difference between a referral and a lead from online. As I'm sure you're aware, referral-based leads are very high quality. Their
Right.
close rates are pretty damn high.
Yeah.
Online, it requires nurturing. So it requires follow-ups and more follow-ups and more follow-ups. Somebody might be on their lunch break submitting a form at work and not be expecting a phone call right away. They might have to go talk to their husband or wife first. So time is it's all about investing time into those leads. You always see a payback. Sometimes you just have to be patient to get that payback.
Okay. So, and how long do you think a client should commit to using your services to be real?
We love 12 months. 12 months
Okay.
is more than enough time in most markets. And again, I say most markets because there are some markets like like I said, Manhattan, Dallas, Boston, LA. Those are the big ones that come to mind. Any of the large competitive cities where you have guys spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on advertising that we have to catch up to them. Most markets, 12 months, more than enough time to get you what we consider a new lead floor, where you'll never go below that lead floor in the future. And at that point, you can just copy and paste the results from year one into year two, and then we just continue to scale that over time.
So a typical client might want to spend, and picking a number, let's say they're going to spend 50 to 75,000 on marketing in that year, and they hope to generate 750, 500,000, $750,000 worth of business from that money they spend with you. Is that realistic?
Absolutely. And again, I I I always want to be the guy that under promises and over delivers. So we have guys who've done way more than that. We have guys who've done less than that. It is we consider it kind of a crawl, walk, run, fly mentality of marketing. And again, it's like a stock market. You're not going to see those massive returns month one, month two, month three, but
Right.
you're going to start seeing them increase. The other thing that keep in mind is the painting industry is very seasonal. Very unlike some of the emergency home services like plumbing and
Right.
HVAC companies. So depending on the time of the year that you start, you could see a slower ramp up or a faster ramp up. So there's a lot of variables at play there, and it's important that we educate our clients to make sure that they understand what they're getting into, because we never want to bring somebody on and have them either expect too much or expect too little. We want to have them be right in the middle.
So most times when you vet your clients, you meet their expectations. Is that
We want to
accurate?
exceed their expectations by setting the bar low. If we can set the bar low, tell them here is like the benchmark or the average, or like here's the worst case scenario this time of the year, and get them better results than they're expecting, that makes everybody happy because they're coming in
Right.
with a mindset of, all right, I might only get a 1x return the first 2 months this time of the year. Great.
Right.
Let's aim for a 5.
Right.
Doesn't always happen. Everybody's starting from a different starting point as well. We love to use the analogy of a race car track where your competition's been out there lapping you this whole time. So we got a lot of catch up to do. So depending on how much effort you've invested in the past will also dictate how quickly you can get up and running in the future.
Okay, great. So now if people want to, Austin, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that and who should they be?
Yeah. So if you're a painting company, we like to use revenue as a kind of a benchmark. We can also use the number of crews that you have as well. But if you're a painting company, let's just say doing on average about 500K a year, you should fit comfortably into our marketing services. Again, we like to look at the percentage of your revenue that you should be investing into marketing.
Mhm.
You can simply go to basecoatmarketing.com/call, or just go to basecoatmarketing.com and click on the schedule call button. It'll take you to the same place. Grab a spot on our calendar. We're going to ask you a number of questions to vet you just to make sure that you might be a good fit for our services. If we've identified that and we identify that, hey, we want to be your partner and we want to help you scale, we'll schedule another call to dive into the weeds of all of our programs, offerings, numbers, and figure out what might be a good fit for you and your company. From there, we are, as I mentioned, a very robust team of onboarding specialists that will get you up and running within 30 days, guaranteed. Um, we offer very few guarantees. That is one of them. And again, our main goal is to help you succeed. That's point in case, end of story.
Okay, great. So I would suggest, now I'm assuming on that first call, even if you don't hire you, they're going to learn a lot about their company and marketing. So there's no downside, right?
No downside. Yep. You get on a call. We're going to ask you some very pointed questions. If we're not a good fit, we will make recommendations on other places that you can go.
Or even do it yourself, right? I mean, so there's no way to lose on the phone call for sure, right?
That's right. We're looking at maybe 15, 20 minutes of your time.
Okay, good. So I suggest if you have a painting company, if you don't call Austin, you're just not smart. Just kidding. So, okay. So Austin, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for accompanying us. A lot of great advice.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me, man.